Hey guys, welcome back to Together We Are Thursdays, or if you're on my AGE channel, hey, how's it going? Um, this week's topic is the influence of eating disorders on school and or work. In a word, brutal. No matter where you are in life, if you're working, if you're in school, ED consciousness definitely interferes to a large extent. There's so much anxiety, paranoia, self-policing in a way, like constantly asking, how do I look to everyone else? Did I say the wrong thing? That gesture I just made was stupid. I mean, depending on how critical you get. I mean, I used to really just analyze every step, and just my consciousness was so focused on inadequacy that it definitely affected work and school for me big time. In the depth of my ED, and this is the sad thing too, looking back, the majority of my memories are related to triggers and trigger mitigation. That's really sad. And I've heard this from other sufferers too, where like, you remember your life in terms of your ED, which, like, events that affected you, you know? How sad is that, you know? But yeah, I'm sitting here trying to remember in the context of school and work how things were affected, and I just remember feeling inadequate and not a good experience. The impact, it affects everything. I can't remember the number of times, and I can't even count the number of times that I would genuinely be trying to concentrate in class or discussing something with a mentor, an internship, and I'd zone out. Like, I'd be looking at their face or, you know, watching a lecture, and I'd be trying so hard to understand, to comprehend, and to follow. But just as an automatic zone out response, I'd start obsessing again about ED stuff. And it was really, really devastating. It became harder and harder to focus, perform, memorize. I mean, I couldn't even study a lot of the time because it just wouldn't stay. And I think somebody else mentioned this, like, reading. You could read a sentence, but you wouldn't retain it. Like, you could pronounce, you know, your eyes could follow the words and you could read it even to yourself. And by the time you got to the end, it was lost. Just things did not compute, basically. And it makes sense, right? I mean, if your brain is starving or if your body is struggling, your physiological and psychological priority is going to be survival. Not anything that you volitionally wish to do, but you as a person, mind, body, and spirit, become reduced to pathology and coping thereof. That's pretty much everything. ED consciousness is it affects every area of your life, so, but paradoxically to how we feel in our minds, the biggest thing is you lose volition and you lose autonomy, and you become directed by this entity that is governing your world. So, what was the impact of my ED? What wasn't the impact of my ED? Honestly, is my question, looking back on school and work. So, definitely, even though when an eating disorder starts, it has a function and a purpose and helps us cope, even if it's not a healthy way, it works. Our mind came up with this survival method, but at some point it loses its purpose and you do lose control, paradoxically, while thinking you are gaining control if it's a restricted eating disorder. Devastating. I guess that's another good word, devastating. There is this line, this thin red, I call it the thin red line, right, between volitional autonomy and immersion in pathology, where you will lose control and the ED will lose a functional purpose, and it just takes over and it will contaminate your whole world. It's really sad and really difficult. So we have to learn to live with this, not for it. That is the critical impasse. How do you learn to take back control? How do you learn to mitigate pathology in order to function ideally? This is why healing tools are so important, because if you don't garner them, unfortunately, your ED has a single purpose, and that is to take your life. So we do have to fight back. And the longer you're sick, and the longer you're immersed, the more of your life it will destroy. And now I sound like a preachy, annoying idiot. I'm just trying to say, if it hasn't already, it will affect academia, it will affect your career, it will affect that high school job, whatever you're doing. It will affect you. Your ability to comprehend, to think, to perform. Kind of hard to be a perfectionist when you're starving with any degree of success. Mental capacity can be totally diminished. I recall in my healthier times, I had a very good memory. I had a very strong aptitude for studying, retaining information, learning new concepts. Now it's a fight, and a lot of that is from physical illness as well. But ED consciousness is like, okay, here's a good analogy. When you visited somebody and they have the TV blaring just for noise in the background, and you're trying to have a conversation and all you can hear is some dumbass irritating commercial? Welcome to ED consciousness, guys. There will always be some annoying distraction in the background. That's what it's about. We have to learn. We have to find the remote, because otherwise there's no way to concentrate. A really irritating commercial or something. You're trying to actually listen to someone. That's probably the best analogy I have for trying to live with an eating disorder while immersed. Because it's interference. It is brain scrambling interference. So yeah, it definitely affects everything. When you find, and you can't be in denial about this, you have to really, really be honest in your soul about it. When you find along this journey that the static, the interference, the annoyance, the I'm gonna lose my frickin' mind if this does not just stop, take stock of your situation. Start looking for that remote, guys. We gotta change channels and fight for non-peace disturbing air sounds. You know, nerdy analogy, but um, yeah. And I think walking a path to healing or in recovery or at least on the healthier side of the journey is all about that. Reducing noise pollution, reducing light pollution, reducing mind pollution, because really, ED consciousness is just that. So yeah, it will become unbearable if it hasn't already, and when it does, there are tools you can learn to turn the volume down. Really. Never give up, precious ones. Really. Okay? And I'm just going to say this because I know I've been getting a lot of messages about this where people are terrified to even question the healing journey because they don't want to give up the functional benefits or psychological benefits of their eating disorder. As insidious as this shit is, nobody's gonna make that go away unless you decide you want it to. And even then, it's a fight. So please don't feel, I mean, there are degrees, you guys. As much as we're black and white thinkers, it is possible to say, I want to strive for healing, even if I'm not ready to let go of X, Y, and Z yet. There is a middle ground. So just don't feel like it's one or the other. I encourage people to try and acquire new tools rather than stressing about giving up old ones at first. You know, and this goes at your pace. Nobody can do this for you. Nobody can take it from you. Nobody can make something work or not work. So don't be afraid to seek healing at any level, even if it's just a teeny little bit. Okay, like, you are in control, even if you don't feel like it, in terms of what you are willing to work on and not. So, those are my loquacious thoughts on that. The question of the week is, what's your favorite animal? And my initial response to this is, what do you mean I have to pick one? I'm a major animal person. Can we categorize? I guess for, like, I'm just gonna do wild and domestic because I have to and I'm a nerd. For domestic, my favorites, which you probably guessed if you see my pets, are pugs, cats, and parrots. I love my eclectus parrots. They're awesome. They're my favorite breed of bird. And, in the wild, it'd have to be cetaceans, dolphin, and whales. They're amazing. Much love and be well. I hope your week goes well, and I'll talk to you next Thursday. And don't forget, seriously, if there's something you want us to cover, or if you have a question or anything, just write us, okay? We're all here for you. Alright, guys. Much love.